I'd been seeing that, everyone's doing, not everyone, dumb people are doing the like Drake, what's it called? The Tussie slide or
What?
whatever. Yeah, he has like a
Yeah.
Oh, that
dance.
sounds terrible.
Slide to the left, slide to the right, that shit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. So Drake, just in his fucking genius, is like, yo, everyone's in quarantine. I'm gonna make a dance challenge and a video that then is done at his house. Because remember, Drake was tested positive for coronavirus or some shit like that.
Really?
Or he came in contact with it or whatever or something. Yeah, remember Drake had to had to
Are you
quarantine.
sure that wasn't just like a bar he was writing? Because that sounds like something he would rap. Like, I just tested positive.
I just tested positive COVID-19.
Life is good.
Two C slide.
That does sound like a Drake line. No, Drake apparently was in contact with someone a few weeks ago and then had to go in quarantine for 2 weeks. I take that back. I don't think he actually had coronavirus, but still, whatever. He took this time to then do a video in his house of like, oh yeah, look at me, just like, doing a quarantine video. And it's the video for this like Tussie slide, or whatever the fuck it's called. Tootsie slide. I don't fucking know.
Tussie slide.
Tussie.
Tussie slide.
It's literally called the Tussie slide. Like,
oh my
which
God.
is which is really funny in German. So yeah, his house looks like, at least to me, like a villain in some like new BioShock game. It's like one part like very like Art Deco, but then if it was like Art Deco done by a rapper, obviously, like they're just like NBA jerseys everywhere, but then also like really the framing of things on the wall are done in like an Art Deco style or whatever, and just like everything is marble, which is just so ridiculously unnecessary. And
my introduction to the Drake, like my first time seeing the Drake pictures and my last, was a tweet. I don't know who tweeted it. Was that Drake's house looks like the third best hotel in Qatar. Which like that's funny. He's like that's deeply uncanny. Like I think his whole career, which is why I'm kind of fascinated by him, is like he's like his whole life is like, I'm doing what a rich person should do, which is get this like gaudy house. Like,
yeah. It's definitely that.
But it doesn't have like his own like style or taste. I think he's just filling it up with exactly like you said. Like it's a reflection of something that's supposed to look cool.
No style.
It's like a meme that's been Xeroxed 100 times. Has glowing.
It's an alien trying to emulate like, hello fellow humans, I am rich and cool.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I mean, I think Rob first perfectly put it that then Drake's entire career has always been emulating that. Like, there was a period where Drake just sounded exactly like Lil Wayne, and I could not tell them apart on songs. Like, especially on, like around that era where then like Drake was in like Young Money and whatnot. When that was still a thing, like I could not tell Drake verses apart from Lil Wayne verses half the time. But with like, I mean, like I think Drake's house is like $100 million or some shit like that. Like, and just seeing all of that, like, money, material, and all that just being completely put to waste in this gaudy fucking mansion for some rapper who's just like been mediocre his entire career.
I don't know about that, Nick, all right? Because, like, 7 days ago, someone uploaded to YouTube Drake 2C Slide slowed and reverbed.
Oh, hell
and then
yeah.
set it to a bunch of, like, anime girls dancing. It's got 5,000 views.
Only? That's not enough.
Other videos on his channel, like Kendrick Lamar swimming pool, slowed and reverb set to anime girls dancing. That's got 240,000 views. There we go. That's it. So give it time.
Not gonna lie. Send all those videos my way.
Yes.
Are the videos also slowed down so I can see anime titties like, going up and down in slow motion?
No, it's also 90s anime girl, so it's like
that. So it's like that whole like Simpsons wave thing.
I feel like it is a bit of that going on, but like I'll send you afterwards. I don't know.
Thank you.
I'm not here to judge.
All right. Yeah, all I wanted to say with that is just like appropriate all wealth, and that was like the tip of the iceberg for me after all this. Is that like Drake is like quarantined in his house, but his house has like a fucking basketball court, and like, you know, when Drake rapped about that he like doesn't see other parts of his house or whatever, I fucking believe him now. Like, I guarantee you he's lost all the time.
Oh, boy.
We're imagining sad Drake lost in his own house.
Hey, welcome to your weekly corner, Späti. We are once again utilizing the internet. Cyberspace to give you your weekly corner, Späti. It's myself, Nick, joined by Kieran.
I'm surfing the web.
Rob.
Hi, folks.
And Yulia.
Yay, I'm here. Hi.
Everyone check out my angel fire.
And we're here to talk about not that feeling that you get in your tummy when it's rumbling. No, we're talking about the country of Hungary.
Oh, wow. Did you
yeah.
prepare that? Like,
No.
did you sit like all day to prepare that?
No, guys, I didn't do that. We just see the giant whiteboard in the background. Like, don't worry,
That's why I
Hungary and
blurred
the
my
country Hungary is, like,
background.
the same.
This is another classic installment of our right-wing party series. Which ones have we done so far?
Oh God, we've done AFD, we've done Golden Dawn, we've done we did the pedophile party from Norway.
And I guess Austria half counts. We talked about
Austria always half counts.
those
Like,
Austrian boys.
let's be real here.
Speaking of the other half of Austria.
Yeah.
Oh God, yes.
Just imagine
So
they would go like get back together,
Please no. That's
and then it would be like
horrible.
oh my god, no.
Yeah, I would like to see that, because if it was just the combination of modern Hungary and modern Austria with their current borders, like, it's not. They don't even own like Slovenia anymore. It's that's just
Czech
depressing.
Republic.
Yeah, that's just sad, guys. Pull it together.
Even though if you've like asked Hungary, they would like to talk to all of those countries again.
What was that chart we found ages ago that was like 76% of like Hungarians want to annex another portion of another country
Yep.
beside them? It was like,
Yep.
that's sick.
Let's take Romania.
Oh yeah, all of Transylvania should be there,
Yeah.
according to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally agreed.
Right. So we're going to talk about. I guess there's a bit of a profile of Fidesz, but also just Hungary and Orban.
Sadly,
Because all
there's a reason we're doing this party profile now.
Yeah.
It's not because it's getting to summer and we want to add another addition to the hot men of Europe calendar.
If you open to April.
Ooh, do you see
topless
DJ
Orban.
Matteo Salvini?
Actually, when Orban was younger, he wasn't bad looking. Did I just say that? I'm sorry. But he was also not as far right wing, like, you know.
No, he
We'll
wasn't.
get
We'll
into
get to that. Hang on. I'm just looking up pictures of young Viktor Orban.
Attractive, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they call me young Orban.
I feel like I was a little bit
had no
catfish because
rhyme
I saw
for
that one photo where people were like, damn, young Viktor Orban could get it. And then I actually looked up more photos of him, like when he's giving that speech that he got famous for in 1989, and he just kind of looks like a nerdy kid.
He does? Wait, I have to see it again. I just remember the hot photo.
Viktor Orban's very famous Bussy speech in 1989. Oh God, this is just going to literally be looking at trying to find pictures of hot Orban.
I'm sorry.
I keep putting in hotorban.com and it just won't work. Anyway.
But now he looks scary, so yeah.
Yeah, now he's a
Fair
bit of a
enough.
thumb. But, right, so yeah, the reason we're talking about Hungary and Orban and Fidesz, as much as you can separate those three concepts, today is because on March 30th, the MPs of Hungary voted in the coronavirus bill, a document with no expiration date that allowed de facto autocratic rule by decree. So, hooray!
Yay! And this is the only country who doesn't have an expiration date for these kind of measures.
Wait, hold up.
In the EU.
I was going to say, Turkey kind of does, but then it's always
in
the
EU.
You have to fight. Turkey has to fight terrorism, which will always exist.
Always, as long as there are Kurdish people around.
Yeah, as long as there are non-Turks in this world. By fucking God.
As long as I am terrified of things, by definition, that's terrifying. Checkmate.
Spooky Kurds. So this bill in Hungary, like a lot of little fun stuff like this, but basically the parliament is kind of like useless now because Viktor Orban can just make rules and do them. So that's fun. I mean, they already had like a supermajority in parliament, so I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, the other great things that exist with this is the 2 to 5 year jail sentence for fake news or distortion of facts. The important thing to note with this is that they already had like disinformation legislation that was less punitive, and no one has really explained why those laws weren't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, Hungary is already like on one of the last places when it comes to freedom of press. So like in Europe. So, like, I'm always talking about Europe. We can top that.
Welcome to the podcast.
Actually, Bangladesh is rated lower than Hungary is.
Look, we set the very high benchmark of Bangladesh.
I have no idea where Bangladesh is located. Actually, they're probably located higher than Hungary is, correct?
I actually think they're probably better.
Maybe. I don't know.
Let's see. What other fun things has like caused from this? Which is, so the some guy that I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name of quite correctly, Gabor Magyeda, who is a researcher at one of Orban's pet think tanks, which we'll get into why those exist. Said with reference to the independent journalist critical of the government's response to the pandemic, he said, "I would suggest their arrest in a crisis like this." Then later said J.K. Lawler was only joking.
Of course. Yeah, and actually this also like, this also affects the information that goes like about the coronavirus that like the population receives. So like because there's also like I think it's prohibited for healthcare and medical workers to talk about it in any way. So that means that also like the healthcare like agencies, they are not allowed. They explicitly ask the medical workers to not give any information to the public. So nice. So we can only guess if like the numbers are right. And
I mean, there's before this law came in, there was a lot of like criticism of what was happening in Hungary in terms of medical response, little to no testing being done, medical staff being underpaid,
that's
lack
true.
of protective equipment, a healthcare system that has been like being receiving cost after cost after cost for years and years. So that's fun.
Yeah, with this law, actually, they are going to raise the wages of healthcare workers, but of course that is not enough. So it's like a 20% raise, as far as I know.
20% raise on one foreign.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's already it's a health care system that is underpaid, that has been like suffering from a lot of like the ideal of for Hungary, but you're kind of like responsible to be a great Hungarian yourself. So like
Hungary's had one of the like weirdest like post neoliberal economies, because it is still it is still really neoliberal at its core, but it is like also a lot of this like if you could like put like economic nationalism also on top of neoliberalism, and you get this like bizarre like cutting away of the state, but then it's also like because you're Hungarian, and you'll get like certain like tax breaks for being Hungarian.
It's just neoliberalism, but every time they ask to explain why they've done this, they say because you're Hungarian.
Yeah, literally, literally, it's like
no. Actually, it's an interesting like delicious menu out of like delicious menu
whatever else Hungary makes.
Anti-communism, anti-liberalism, etatism, and neoliberalism. So it's kind of like it's interesting because it's kind of like typical for this kind of like government that Orban leads. Or the politics that he does. It's like I would call it like maybe like selective democracy, or like selective in all of the way like. And everything he does, kind of like the policies.
It's like an RPG where like you can make the decisions, but at the end, the game is still going to end the exact same way.
It still ends in fascism. But you take everything that sounds delicious to you. You take advantage of it. So like it's the same. We will maybe talk about that later. It's like with like constitutional instrumentalism. Like when you just use. You use the structures that you have, you use your institutions, you use like the certain ideas, and you turn it into your favor. So that's
nice.
Sorry, constitutional instrumentalism?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That sounds like a made-up big word that like death metal bands will like name a song, so they like pretend that they're like political.
Yeah.
I love that System of a Down song. Anyway, so that's the like bill that kind of like kicked this off. But since that bill's been introduced, they introduced a new, like, now that they can rule by decree, here's like the thing that happened with that new power. So already since
already
March
declared
30th,
that it is Hot Girl Summer Part 2 in April.
That might be in there because the following day, March 31st, Deputy Prime Minister Zsolt Semyon? Oh god, I forgot how Hungarian works.
It doesn't, that's the joke.
All I know is ZS is actually an S sound. The Z is tricking you. Anyway. So Zsolt Semyon, I think, introduced a bill with 57 legislative changes. So, Hot Girl Summer Part 2 might be in there. But things that are definitely in there is Fidesz now has direct control of all theaters and art councils.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
For culture war bullshit, presumably.
Exactly.
The bill gives Orban the go-ahead to build a bunch of museums in a Budapest park that he's been constantly fighting with the Budapest mayor over. Yeah, that's petty.
What is this museum gonna be of? I'm very curious.
The Viktor Orban Museum and all his virginal daughters and their white shirts.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can only think of like three things for Hungary. You would either be one, like the culinary disgust that is Hungarian foods. Two, something about the Hungarian. I'm just kidding. I don't know what fucking Hungarian food is. All I can think of is goulash, and that's not very appetizing. Something about then just the crown, or like the Museum of the Jew, or something like that.
Oh god, the
Viktor Orban Museum for how there's never actually been any communists ever.
I was not one ever.
I wasn't one.
No, of course not.
No, but that is actually interesting because that like it's interesting how much he cares about that. Actually, like I was sent a long research paper from like different members of like the cultural sphere in Hungary, doing research on like how the Orban being in power affected them in their like study, in their researches, and how like he tries to actually, this is kind of like one of his like Kernelemente shit. Yeah, Kernelemente of like his whole fucking like strategy of like how Fidesz actually like won the election again, but we are going to talk about that later.
Yes. So. Other things that were included in Semyon's 57 legislative changes bill Keep in mind, all of this was to fight coronavirus. This is all under the pretext that this needs to fight coronavirus. So direct control of the theaters and art councils, that's to fight coronavirus. Let's see. Third thing, a bill that also classified documents surrounding the construction of the Budapest to Belgrade train line that Orban and all his friends are building.
Of course.
Those documents have been classified for coronavirus reasons.
It's very interesting because that is also like something so typical, because he loves to favor businesses that are like friends, So it's just
me
like,
and 1,100 of my best friends.
No, this is like a part of like the crony capitalism part, like the weird shit, It's
You just
like,
mean capitalism. Let's not use that.
Yeah,
word here on
I
this
know.
show.
Sorry. Let's not use crony because it's just capitalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the difference between capitalism and crony capitalism is I fucking have to make friends with everyone I make deals with. God damn it! So your drug dealer tries to be your friend.
Well, I just love
Kevin.
it. I love it because like that word's thrown around so much in liberal political science because it's all in the background of
I know.
liberal democracies of
Yeah.
see, there's a good capitalism that ends when when Angela Merkel does these bizarre deals with a Romanian construction company to not build BER airport. That's normal capitalism. but when it's your friends, then that shit's fucked up.
Well, it's
when
like
it's Orban's 7 million Serbian friends.
Yeah, and I mean, for like in all sense, if you were powerful, you'd want to give deals to your friends. Like, come on.
it's like the capitalist version of the Soviet Union wasn't communist. It's like
Everyone's a trot. All my Trotskyist Serbian friends. New train station. Okay, so in more serious stuff, there was a bill that was going to suspend all municipal autonomy.
Yeah.
But that was abandoned, which is a common strategy of Orban, where he'll make a whole bunch of bills with a whole bunch of changes in them, and then he'll have one being like, I get total control. Everyone has to say my daughters are hot. We murder everyone with an M in their name. And everyone's like, no, we can't do that. All right, I'll be reasonable. I'll remove the M thing. But I still get complete control. Everyone says my daughters are hot. He apparently refers that as peacocking or peacock dancing, which I find very funny. Then the last one is, or the last big one, because there was 57. I'm not going to do all 57, but the last big one is the bill also bans gender reassignment surgery and forces all Hungarians to continue identifying with the gender of their birth. In all
because you need that during Corona.
That's a coronavirus.
It's like,
coronavirus. If I rearrange these letters, it says trans person. It's like, where do you get the T?
yeah.
So you're saying that coronavirus says trans rights? Damn. It kills billionaires and...
It is a comrade.
Yeah. I love that because remember Greece did something really similar too, but because they have a very flawed democracy, it didn't go over as well when they were like, oh yeah, coronavirus, yeah, the refugees are a real big problem.
Apparently they did try that narrative here, but it didn't really work.
What? It didn't work in Hungary, the most racist country in Europe.
I think actually, from what I heard of how people described it, it kind of sounded like everyone was just sick of Orban saying the same thing over and over. It was just and also this coronavirus bill, coronavirus means we have to get me into refugees, and it's that's your answer to everything, Orban. You're
that's boring.
Well, I guess
getting boring. I elected you because you were fun. When I elected you, you were fun. You always had new ideas.
Shockingly, Orban has less leverage, less flexibility than a New York Times columnist. Fucking David Brooks can say the same thing every week and get away with it. But Viktor Orban, they're like, come on, Victor, we need.
But I think the only difference in that is that then Hungary doesn't have any refugees.
I mean, it's always just been a scapegoat, a scare tactic, the fictional boogeyman. Whereas in Greece, it's you've got probably one of the largest populations of refugees per percentage in all of Europe.
I mean,
that's upsetting.
Hungary's national narrative lives from that, saying like they protect. Well, like back then against the Ottoman Empire, we protect Christianity in Europe, or the Christian Europe, the old Europe, the good Europe.
I like the idea of just like the history of Hungary, where we protect Europe from the Mongol hordes, which we are definitely not a part of.
No, they definitely
don't look into that.
They definitely saw those Ottoman drawings of those dudes just in a circle fucking each other, and they were like, "Nah, like that's too fucking crazy for us.
Can't do that."
Yeah,
that'll never fly in Europe.
I think we're going to get into it later, but like, what's one thing surprising about me, especially in Hungary today, like especially as I don't know what to call it, an outpost, let's say, in this like alt-right worldwide network.
Orban's like the biggest hero on Breitbart.
Yeah, they just have more. We Hungarians have more in common with like Americans than whatever these refugees that are coming, which is just like that, along with the Christian democracy thing, which seems to be like hand in hand with the illiberal democracy, like. Hungary isn't even that Christian. I mean, I know there's somewhat of a Christian population, but it seems like it's just like forcing these terms like, yeah, we're a Christian democracy. We're just like America. There's no differences between Hungary and America and the UK and whatever in Western Europe.
Well, that's like a perfect...
protesting a little too much.
Yeah, that's like a perfect, I think, segue to then how that kind of all like forms, doesn't it? Because this is like the idea then of a national Catholic identity. Because remember, it's not even just that they're Christian; they're specifically Catholic.
They're Catholic,
and like
the
them in Poland,
Catholic.
like them in Poland's also specifically very Catholic. And remember, with the fall of the Soviet Union, that was a big deal because John Paul II or whatever the fuck his real name was a Polish dude who hated the Soviet Union and this and that and that. And Hungary's Catholic identity is reawoken in, I think, a quite similar way of that. Then it's like, see, because the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact existed and whatnot, we had the communist government who forbade us from being Catholic, which is not true at all. There's then this beginning then of like a protest culture that then exists with then being religious and being like hyper reactionary and whatnot. So all forms of protest are obviously not good.
In one, I don't know if it was an interview or a speech, he said that the best Christian democracy, like this term in the world right now, is Bolsonaro's Brazil. So that's who, Hungary and Brazil, the same place.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's in the same place. That's what I think of. I think of the tropical beaches, women in bikinis. I'm at home. It's Budapest, baby.
I mean the preamble of the Hungarian constitution says that Hungary is part of Christian
Europe. There is no
Europe.
God but Allah.
And
I really thought you were going to say Hungary is a part of Brazil.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it talks about like Christianity as preserving the nation. So and this tie was made very late, as Nick was stating or claiming. Rightfully saying what? Oh my God, English.
English is a fuck. Don't worry.
I know. It was kind of like really a strategy, to get a narrative like for the nation, something else that people can rally behind. And
well, like Ukraine's doing the same thing right now too, with like the establishment of like the Ukrainian.
We have our own Orthodox Church.
Yeah,
it's different. We'll have that character in the books that isn't in Russian, that kind of thing that looks like an X with a cross through it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
But then the thing too with all of it is that like at least like Viktor Orban's like honest about then what Christian governance would look like. It would be just like full blown authoritarianism. So good on you, King, for doing white Sharia.
All right, so I guess this last little bit about the current situation is that the COVID response has been probably one of the worst in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So
a weekly contest of who's doing the worst coronavirus response.
Yeah, I guess we'll see when this is all said and done. I guess we'll see what's happening. But I mean more the kind of like economic relief aspect, because there's been nothing for like a lower strata of workers. like, say what you will of Germany, but like Germany has at least said you can now apply for like Hartz IV over the phone. That's like more than Hungary did. Hungary has just giving out like tax credits to like large and medium-sized businesses.
Of course. Friends.
Yeah. Friends, yeah. All my 7 million Serbian friends. And then like, yeah, and then the other thing that Orban did, which is, I think we are going to hear a lot of this around the world if we haven't already, which he's kind of said that Hungary is at war with COVID-19.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically implied that anyone who opposes him is on the side of the virus in the war, which I find wild.
The opposition, for example, that's why they're like they try to dismiss it, they try to fight the bill. And of course, it was dismissed because they were fighting for the virus.
I'm just imagining, like, Viktor Orban imagines the world is just like is it Halo 2 or Halo 3 where you fight the flood?
I think Halo 3.
I want them to have like a live action kind of thing like Russia had, but it's like Viktor Orban fighting the virus.
Yeah.
Celebrity boxing, but it's Orban against coronavirus.
I can't wait in our new reactionary turn to cancel people for palling around with viruses. Like the Dixie Chicks, they were soft on virus. Just anybody.
Oh, yeah.
But
all right.
It's interesting because it's not the first time, just real quick, because like he uses these opportunities obviously to like gain more power, and it's not the first time because he did that after the global economic crisis to justify like a bunch of unorthodox measures, and to remove democratic barriers from his way to executive power. So smart.
Nice. Oh yeah, we'll get to that now because I think we should discuss how did we get here. How does Vitesse like basically control this country and allowed to do whatever the fuck they want? So I think we're going to do this do this timeline in two sections for people listening at home. We're going to go from like 1988 to 2010 very quickly because that's a bunch of bullshit. But then after 2010, when we get the second, third, and fourth Orban government, we start to see some things kick off. So stay tuned. The most interesting thing I found about the founding of the party in 1998 is they started from like liberal student activism, and I actually get to find out what the fuck Fidesz actually means. It means Fiatal Democratic Soviet or something. Anyway, it means Alliance of Young Democrats.
Yeah, it does.
The fuck?
I know this is kind of cheating, but put another one up on the board. Free market liberal party turns into a fascist party.
I know.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. You know what, Rob? I don't know. I've never seen that happen before, ever. Especially not in like the last 20 years.
I say it's cheating because like, wasn't it like in Hungary in 1988 or 89, like saying you're liberal is like saying, like the same thing with the like return of Catholicism or Christianity. It's like everyone will say you're liberal. Like, yeah, we're liberal. We're students. That's what we are now. We're liberal.
Yo, me and all my homies are Catholic fundamentalist free market, whatever the fuck we are.
I mean, I don't know that much about Orban's. Like, I just read a little bit online, but like, it just seems like he moved to he started the party. I mean, he was included among the party founders in '88 and moved to to study at Oxford in '89, and then
but with like money from the Soros Foundation, by the way.
Exactly. Nice pat story.
That will come back later.
Yeah.
But just like, and then it seems like when the changes were happening in 1989, he just seems like, oh, I'm a young Hungarian studying at Oxford. Obviously, I will go back and be one of the leaders. Like, that's my right as a educated young Hungarian.
That was kind of the thing, though, of like all those like former Warsaw Pact countries. Is like you're like somewhat semi-best educated people just like magically ended up in government like the next year. Like, oh, you got a degree not from the I don't even know what schools there are in Hungary, but. Oh, you went to Oxford. Oh, you went to, Cambridge. Well, here's a governmental position for you or a, multinational company.
I think Rob put it best one time, like a very long time ago when we did the first Mega Rika of just like Eastern Europe, like who became millionaires was just like whoever was the best at wearing suits is basically it.
Whoever had the firmest handshake.
Yeah.
I mean, this like whole thing was it's kind of complicated, especially in Poland and Hungary, with the whole story about like the liberals, the 90s, the times of transformation, and everyone was like, yeah, I'm a liberal, like Rob just said, because it was very en vogue back then.
Right.
Until everyone felt like they got fucked over, and then suddenly everyone says like, oh, I've never been a liberal, like what the fuck, the liberal fucked us over, like the Kaczynski brothers.
Liberal people.
Yeah.
I've been reading Hayek von Mises from the very beginning. Just hopping on the liberal bandwagon.
It's the same in Poland. It's the Kaczynski brothers, you know, like they were doing the same shit. They were like they were on the round table in the discussions, like with like they were from Solidarność, and you know they were also part of this whole like fuckery after the transformation, and I guess Orban also kind of, you know, and suddenly no one is liberal anymore, and they are actually illiberal.
Oh no! Well, it's like that thing too. Like the good thing that you mentioned Poland, because it was like in that movie of the year, the Stefan Molyneux finds his Polish roots, where he goes to like that freedom bar, and they're we're not fascists, we are libertarians. It's like, yeah, dude, I'd call myself that too if I was a fascist. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, quickly going through this a little bit. So, in 1990, we get Fidesz enters the parliament with 6% of the vote. At this point, they're a member of the Liberal International. So, yeah, there you go. 1993, though, is when things start to change. They move their stated ideology from liberal to civic centrist.
The liberal shit, I'm done with it.
Yeah, civic centrist.
What does that even mean?
Well,
who knows?
Well,
Yulia, probably.
I center myself around
city.
It's
civic.
Well, it's later. It's important. And wait, are we going to 1998 now?
I'll tell you when we're at 1998.
Okay, then I talk about citizens and civic centrists.
Nice. But yeah, this is when they did this in 1993. This is also when Orban is elected as leader of the party, and the a small split happens with many of the like party members moving to Hungarian Alliance for Free Democrats, which is like the ALDE party of Hungary. I think still today, or if they've been absorbed and crushed, I don't know. But yeah, now we're at 1998. Sorry, Yulia.
Cool. Okay, that's when Viktor Orban became prime minister of a right-wing coalition the first time. And here you can like actually see a big shift. Like they start to talk about this. Like they like invent this citizen concept as their like central normative concept, kind of. So like as a like counter action to the subject of a communist regime. So like the anti-communism gets even stronger during those times. And as a citizen, you are kind of like it's this weird shit out of like neoliberalism, you know, being an entrepreneur. I don't know, like. But also at the same time, not relying on any welfare, you know? So, like, you're cool, you're a citizen, but that means you are responsible for, like, being a good citizen. That means you shouldn't end up as a welfare case. So you should try to, like, realize yourself in this great Hungarian nation, you know? And if you're like, on welfare, you are a failed citizen. And the interesting thing is that actually that concept was like, okay, it was a nice concept stuff, but it didn't give Fidesz enough of like a profile, you know? It wasn't enough to be like a counter movement of like still liberalism going on, neoliberalism, you know?
Yeah.
So. Let's move forward.
No, you're absolutely right. It wasn't enough. Like they become more conservative.
Exactly.
They have 4 years in government, 1998 to 2002. They joined the EPP, a move that everyone agrees with now until forever. Definitely doesn't cause any problems.
That's another funny point, just with the EPP, because mostly the EPP, I know they're just kind of they're a mishmash of groups, but a lot of them are the Christian democracy groups around Europe, right? And so Orban too, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't personally religious, and there's even quotes from like the early debates in the Hungarian parliament about like, you know, like separation of church and state from Orban. And then in the course of the 90s, as they like adopt this position of like, I don't know what kind of party they need to build to run Hungary, they're like, oh, we're just going to become more Christian again. That's going to be
there was there's this kind of transition of like when they first start out, like in the early 90s, they're kind of in opposition to the Christian. There is like a Christian Democratic Party in Hungary, but now they're like coalition partners, and they have been for a very long time.
Cute.
Yeah. But okay, that isn't enough, because in 2002 they very narrowly lose an election to the Social Democrats.
Exactly.
And immediately accuse them of electoral fraud with this wild out. But after losing they lost some elections in 2006 as well, which were the next elections. But then after that point, they start seeing some smaller elections go their way, like European elections, local municipal elections, things like that. Yeah. So, and that's the last time they're in opposition.
Yeah, and that is due to, can I talk about that? To a lot of work they put actually into that, you know, like after like a decade of like, there's actually like a decade of work, especially after the election in 2002, they came up with a rhetoric, as I mentioned before, that the nation cannot be in opposition, and they are the nation. So they claim they are the nation. They are what Hungary wants and what Hungary is supposed to be. So they start like actually investing into a lot of cultural infrastructure. Building think tanks, you know, like think tanks, actually having their own little political philosopher called Andras Lanci or whatever. I can't pronounce that.
Something Hungarian.
Pronounce that. Yeah.
Magyar.
Zsa Gabor.
Well, Gabor is actually, but he was very like inspired by Leo Strauss. Strauss, I say Strauss, whatever. And actually wrote a fucking conservative manifesto.
Oh,
you know?
It was called His Struggle, but in Hungarian.
Yeah, basically that. But yeah, there's a lot of like political mobilization going on, and it really, it was very beneficial, like coming up with like anti-communism with Eastern nationalist identity politics, you know, like a cute little fusion of that. So
this is a message for all the infidels in the capitalist West. This is a message from good ISIS. When we are not establishing communes based on mutual aid in Iraq, and Syria, and the Levant, we are donating $5 a month to our favorite podcast, Corner Späti. That is the official endorsement of us, good ISIS, eat your vegetables. For just the mere cost of $5 a month, you can get 2 bonus episodes per month at the current rate, a bunch of drawings, and some weird live stream stuff, as well as other bonus goodies. Solidarity forever, death to the West. Yes, we both say that.
Yeah.
Rob, it is time to go into. You did a little research on the Orban family.
I did. First of all, I didn't go in with any expectations, but once I found this out, everything made sense. My favorite member of the Orban family is his fail son, and yes, Viktor Orban. Every powerful family. What's the quote behind every powerful man? There is a fail son. Hold on, I have to bring it up. His name is Gaspar, first of all. He's the only son. He has 4 daughters with his wife, and he's the only son. I believe the second oldest. He was a professional soccer player. He's apparently he's not very good. He didn't get like a lot of playing time, but he played for like one of Hungary's best teams, and people think it's because the owner of the team is good friends with Viktor Orban, of course.
Which team did he play for?
Classic move.
Hold on, I'll bring it up.
Just out of curiosity.
I didn't remember the name, so I didn't pay attention.
Ooh. I like Gaspar Orban's signature pink flat cap.
Oh yeah, he looks good.
Videoton.
Yeah, Videoton. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that's like easily one of the biggest clubs in Hungary.
Yeah, he played for Videoton. And okay, so that's just classic. Your dad gets you a nice job as a midfielder for Videoton. He broke his leg, so he retired. He's 28, by the way, so fellow millennial. And what he did when he retired was start this thing called Felhaz. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it right, which is a new age religion.
I thought you meant that it was just like a hang up for fail sons.
Honestly, it could be. So this is why, okay. It doesn't seem to be particularly big. There are a few videos on Facebook where it's just him and his friends. Kieran, you mentioned the pink hat photo. I'm pretty sure that's an interview of the three of them. Like, yeah, talking about Felhaz, this thing we started. And they have this energy of like, when like three dipshits get like a multi-million-dollar startup offer and then they're interviewed like these geniuses. They're like, here we are. But in other videos, they're just standing around and being like, they talk like those like new age priests who are like the like personal advisor for like Justin Bieber or Kyrie Irving. They're like, Jesus is swag. He kind of talks like that about this Felhaz thing.
Oh yeah, Jesus would totally be a Nazi. Like,
it got a lot of mysterious donations.
Nice.
So I should point out through all of this, I don't know if it's Orban, if it's like Orban Senior or Gaspar, but they don't seem to be super close. The son kind of says some stuff like, yeah, I'm not that close to my dad. Like, I don't agree with him sometimes. He went to Uganda and said he discovered his faith there, teaching kids soccer. And he said his family was very against that. As we know from the beautiful photo, he is not in that photo shoot with the four daughters.
It's probably because he's not Catholic anymore.
True.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He's Pentecostal.
Yeah, it says on Wikipedia, it says he's Pentecostal, which is like the most just vile, like
evangelical.
Yeah. It's definitely the worst of the worst.
What kind of representation does Pentecostal Church have in Hungary? Is he like the only Pentecostal Hungarian?
It's probably like him and 12 of his friends, like Rob said.
So I'm sure there were his friends, but he got very high remarks. So like he's a very powerful preacher. So who knows what he was saying? He mysteriously stopped Felhaz, or they suspended themselves, so they got all that money, and I don't know, it's just sitting around. And he joined the army, so he's officially a member of the Hungarian army. And Viktor Orban was there at his ceremony where he became a member.
Wow!
So there you have it, Gaspar Orban.
Oh my God, Gaspar.
Gaspar.
Gaspar, yeah. There's a very great picture if you Google image search him of him like sitting in the bleachers with his dad, all looking very sad and not like they're talking to each other, while like behind him is like Merkel and in front of him is the president of Austria. Forgotten his name. Yeah, it's a very disappointing photo because it's just like Orban brings his son to like, I don't know, EU Council meeting. I don't understand.
Don't fucking act up. We'll go to McDonald's afterwards, okay?
Yeah, none of your Pentecostal shit, all right? If they do Holy Communion, you take it.
He just seems like a weird kid. Like he has definitely like Hunter Biden vibes of like, no, my family doesn't understand me. Like in some he looks like really fash. Not even the army ones,
exactly.
But when he's wearing like a sweater around his neck and he's like, it's very like doctored photo. Then sometimes it's just him and his two friends looking really geeky, being like, "We started a new religion." Yeah. Being interviewed in a courtyard. I don't know what to make of it. I just wanted to introduce.
I'm really confused. Yeah, seriously, I'm looking at the photos right now. Sometimes he does look like a church boy or like a really geeky church boy with like his long hair and the glasses. Or so. Then he's the hot football player. And then
you're stretching the word hot to its like
I know, I'm sorry.
He's filled with
well, hot
multitudes.
for other people.
Contains
Hot for
multitudes.
other people. Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't understand. Yeah, it is great because also the other photo is like, yeah, I agree with you, Leah. There's a lot of different energies here, but I feel like the other one is like startup founder, or like the hottest guy in your like secondary school, your high school like theater group, which is not saying a lot, but like, yeah, he really thought he was the cock of the walk. I don't know. It's all very strange.
So he's not really in the like Orban inner circle. His oldest daughter is, and her husband is basically like Orban's Jared Kushner. He's tight with Orban, and they do a lot of stuff together. He's been investigated by, I think so Hungary was investigating him, or like he was being sued, and then they just dropped the case. Like, yeah, no, he didn't do anything wrong. And the EU was pressing Hungary to like pick it back up, because clearly they're doing crime. István Tiborcs has become one of the wealthiest oligarchs in Hungary since his father-in-law, Viktor Orban, returned to power as prime minister.
33. Sorry.
They were married in September 2013. Tiborcs and a business partner founded the company ES Holding in 2009.
Holding company. That's
of
great.
course. Yeah, he's a businessman.
He's not a businessman. He is a businessman. It changed its name to Helios Innovative. Oh, he got rich in LED lighting.
Cool.
Okay, let's get into it. In March 2015,
I own every planetarium in Budapest.
in March 2015, there was a report that Helios, so again the company run by Viktor Orban's son-in-law, had won 19 public procurement tenders to install LED street lighting at various locations in Hungary. So it was around this LED lighting case that the National Investigative Office launched an inquiry based on criminal complaints received from the opposition parties. So the opposition parties launched criminal complaints into the LED lighting. In June 2016, the National Investigative Office halted its inquiry. Tiborcs has subsequently shifted to real estate. He owns an interest
Of course.
in 17 companies, of which 12 dealt with real estate.
That's also
January
that's also
2018.
Catholicism.
We mentioned
Athens luxury hotel.
Not finishing
mentioned
luxury
earlier-
hotels is also Catholicism. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is you gotta make hotels that are just money pits.
whatever Tiborcs does, it's Catholicism.
I do think that Viktor Orban goes around calling Istvan his like favorite son and stuff.
Definitely, because
poor
remember
Imagine that.
Remember when I said earlier that in one of the bills passed by decree, Orban basically used his new power to put a bunch of museums on a public park that the mayor of Budapest was trying to protect?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's some more background to that feud between Orban and that mayor. Is that mayor in 2019 presented a proposal called the Tiborcs tax that would impose a tax on real estate of value over 500 million Hungarian forints, which people
That's $2,000
like
in like any like regular currency.
it's like 20 euro. But it's like it's called the Tiborcs tax because basically all the property over that amount is owned by fucking István Tiborcs. So that's great. And like, yeah, so Daddy came to the rescue with his new fucking decree power to stop the mayor of Budapest from bullying his favorite son.
What the
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Oh god, those dinner conversations must be very weird.
Yeah. I feel like Istvan versus Gaspar is going to be a very recurring mythos here because like Istvan is like, yeah, he's a good little business boy, whatever. Gaspar is an enigma of like a land of contradictions. One minute he's like someone who might be in the background of like Justin Timberlake's stage crew. The other minute he's like a soldier. I don't know. It's all very strange.
He is definitely a wild card.
Yeah.
Watch, Gaspar's also going to come out on the other end, just like the Jack, whatever his name is, of Twitter, but of Hungary.
All right. So now I think we need to get into 2010 Fidesz because this is when it all kicks off. Put a little background here is something I actually didn't know before doing the research, but Fidesz is actually like a 2008 reaction party. So in the 2010 election, after about 8 years of the MSZP, or the like Hungarian Social Democrats running the shop, they basically were blamed for handling 2008 really badly, and also imposing austerity before that even happened.
Yeah.
Like even before 2008, the Social Democrats in Hungary were doing austerity, so people hated them. There was a massive protest in 2006 when an audio recording of the Social Democratic Prime Minister was leaked, where it said he admitted to lying about how rough the economy was so he could do austerity. Steel barriers were erected around the parliament because the protests got so bad. So yeah, 2010 election comes along and Fidesz sweeps the board.
Yeah, that's why they actually call it like the polling booth revolution.
Lame.
Yeah.
I love how like liberals like to just call everything a revolution, even something that just like is absolutely horrible. Like,
well, I to be fair, I think Brands did that, where it's like, hey, we've added a new spout to your water bottle. We call it the water bottle revolution.
Yeah, like it definitely is like a real, like it is definitely like a real like neoliberal thing. Like everything that then is just so like a government changing, like, you know, from center right to further right, like, oh, that's revolution. Like,
that is as big a move as adding a new blade to the Gillette Mach 3. Like,
I mean, they have a name for like what comes afterwards. Like they call it like the system of national cooperation or something like that. Like everything has like funny names.
No pussies allowed. That's what it's called.
What?
In Hungarian politics, everything has funny names, because I have thoughts on that. First of all, the bill that had like 57 things in it earlier, that's called a salad bill in Hungarian. That's adorable.
Really
whenever Orban introduces something outrageous to later back up on it so he can get everything else he wants, he calls that peacocking, which again, hilarious.
I love that one.
Apparently also, political scientists in Hungary call Viktor Orban, he rules by a velvet fist.
Yeah, the velvet fist.
That's very... Ooh.
That's kind of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. A little hot under the collar here.
I'm sorry. I just want I just want my leader just to completely dom me. Like I want my latex,
velvet.
binded president.
No. I'm in latex. Orban's in velvet.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool. I'm bound to a table.
Oof.
And the table is relative GDP growth. I'm bringing it back. So initially,
and
under
Orban just continuously edging me with fucking austerity policies.
He's gonna pass 70 bills in 3 months.
Oh God, Daddy, I'm gonna bust.
I know.
I'm gonna amend the Constitution all night. Jesus. But just to kind of clearly illustrate, because I think we've said this before several times about how much like market forces love when things go very far right wing. Because Orban comes to power, and since 2010 under Fidesz, and this is where they get a lot of their like credibility, there's been growth in GDP in Hungary. The national credit ratings of Hungary have improved. They can borrow more and blah, blah, blah. There's been some like dodgy number fudging to make unemployment seem less than it is.
Yeah, I mean, that works a lot also with like the work program, the policy that he... I don't know if we want to talk about that later, but yeah.
Well, we'll get to it, but like it's definitely a big part of it. I think the other part of it as well is like the emigration, like everyone leaving Hungary. It was like, oh damn, the unemployment's gone down. I was like, yeah, because they all left for like Austria. Also 4% of Hungary's GDP is just EU structural funds.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. It is true. It's really like they know how to use the EU. They need the EU, actually. And that is a funny part, because he's like so polemic about how this is, the forefront of Christian Europe, and
Christianity is stealing money from the European Union. I can actually get behind that. Like, that's cool.
And he's like in a liberal he is in a liberal democracy. Hungary is in a liberal democracy, and how he and the enemy also is in the EU and shit like that, and the stuff he has said, funny stuff that people are always very shocked and upset about. Criticizing the 68 movement and for ruining Europe kind of, but he loves that money, he loves the EU funds. He uses a lot of them, he uses them for example for anti-abortion billboards all around, all across the country, and it was kind of money that was given to them for family policies. And he was like, yeah, this is family policy. I mean, if you don't abort, we have more Hungarians, so...
The family's bigger. What do you want?
Family. This is building families. So, yeah.
This is all very technically true.
It is. And he knows how to use all these instruments, You can say all this shit and still get the money. Even though his friendship party in the EU are now they debating of kicking him out. So
he still doms them with his velvet fist, so it's fine. So this is probably one of the big first things they did after 2010. But with their supermajority in 2010, Fidesz basically makes a new constitution.
Yay.
With 2,000 amendments to it.
Yay.
And passes 200 new laws.
Mm-hmm.
One of these laws made it illegal to settle foreign populations in Hungary, which has been a big foundation of Orban's anti-immigration.
So you mean being Hungarian is illegal then, is what you're telling me?
Back to the Ural Mountains, but this land now belongs to, I don't know, some sort of Meso-Neolithic tribe that we've forgotten about. I don't fucking know. Proto-Austrians? What's going on?
Oh god, that just to me is the funniest thing at the core of all of this, is that Hungarians, as we know them now, didn't appear in Europe until 800 AD.
Jesus.
Cool. In my book, they don't exist. That's just you have to at least be here for 2,000 years. That's what Jesus says in the Bible.
That's what Istvan told me that one time I was hanging out with him. But go on, you do.
No, but actually, it's good that you mentioned the majority, because that only gave them, the possibility to change the constitution in comparison to Poland, who also tried something like that, but they didn't have the majority, a big time majority in the parliament.
Yes, because it's one of these things where it's pretty common in European countries that if you get a supermajority, you can now change the constitution. Mm-hmm. That's in Italy, that's in Poland. It's just that we kind of didn't expect to happen. That was the caveat with all of that. It's well, if supermajority happens, it's probably legit. It's probably not the result of horrified gerrymandering or whatever. So that's great. The new constitution is a good one.
Fun, a lot of fun stuff in there.
Yes. One of the fun things that they put in there is basically since 2010, along with the constitution amendments, there's been a series of laws and reforms that led to about 100,000 evictions, payouts for wealthier homeowners, and a more infamous criminalization of sleeping in public space at the level of constitution.
Yeah.
So the anti-homeless bill is one of the things they bring in.
Isn't that specifically to target Roma populations?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of populations that have been in Europe longer than Hungarians. The irony of all this. So
I'm waiting for one Hungarian nationalist to listen to this episode in 3 years and just be fuck these guys. Hungary's always existed.
And they just at us on Twitter and we're like, what?
What are you referring to?
When I'm swimming in my fucking, podcaster's bath, that we have in our fucking podcasting mansion paid for by Putin.
So
I'll get all my. I won't see the nasty tweet that's sent to me because I'll have like my anime waifu that is now real because of the future. She filters out all that stuff. It's great. Here we get the 2014 election when we start to feel Jobbik nipping at their heels.
Yeah.
Although they deal with that pretty quickly. This is also, as far as I can tell, the like first big election where they do the whole like critical media sources are basically destroyed. There's a huge amount of financial support for media sources that are friendly towards the government. And then the like state-funded information campaigns start happening that are like targeted against George Soros, the EU Commission.
Again, a lot of billboards. I've seen a lot of billboards. And it's actually funny because one of the he was one of the former leaders of one of the biggest media companies in Hungary, was a good friend of Orban. But then I don't know, something happened. They were fighting. And now of course he is like a persona non grata, and there's a lot of a lot of media about him, like how he's actually a Soros friend.
Oh damn!
Like
is that like is that like his own?
Yeah.
Is that his own personal Gulen?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
I really like the idea that like something happened, and then it turns out years later that like Gaspar converted him to Pentecostalism. It's like, we are no longer friends. I just hang out with your cool son, Orban. He's not my son. Oh god, yeah. So this is the interesting thing is I find that like a lot of interviews with like activists in Hungary describe the media landscape before 2010 as being like relatively normal, like diverse, a diverse range of ideologies represented at like all levels, like websites, newspapers, TV stations, and how like quickly that all like went. And now we just basically have like, well, like HIR TV, HIR TV. That's just like, Orban's great, everything's brilliant. Oh man, isn't it great being Orban's friend, which I am.
Hey, don't you just love waking up in Orban's Hungary?
Sorry, I misheard the S, so I'm just like, don't you love waking up and, oh no, Orban's hungry again. Start him off with a fresh bowl of Magyarios. Part of a balanced breakfast. Isn't the episode of The Simpsons where like Mr. Burns is on every TV channel?
Oh, this is a jolly good day to pass some bills. It's just like 70.
Istvan, I'm home. What? Already? Laugh track. But the all right, so moving on from that, this is probably one of the fun things that Yulia can tell us more about, but after 2010 is also when we start to see legitimization of like fascism and like a whole bunch of anti-communism stuff ramp up. Removals of a lot of statues celebrating figures from Hungary's past. More often than not, they're replaced with the statue of Miklos Horthy. Yeah. Like, I love that, like, there's, like, they took down a figure of this guy, they took down a figure of that girl, of this guy, like, 20 distinct historical figures from Hungarian history, all replaced with statues of this one fucking lad.
I mean, you can't see that enough, huh?
Yeah. Welcome to Budapest. Take the 20,000 statues of Horthy tour.
I mean, yeah, I mean, this is all part of like what I've talked about this like building a new narrative for the nation. You know, something that people can rally behind and feel Hungarian again. Yeah. And something that is strong and you know, like a bit to consolidate what they have done like in the decade before they won the election again, you know.
Yeah.
So and a lot of the time the like focal point or the anchor point or like their dreamland, their utopia, you see the same thing happening in Poland, is like the what's it called, the interbellum years. So the years between the wars. Yeah. And that is a period that everyone likes to kind of like refer to, you know, as being the land of milk and honey. And this is what we want. This is what Poland wanted. This is what like Hungary wants. And it's of course nothing like you can actually refer to, but you make something up like that, you know.
Yeah. Because that's it does seem to be that's kind of the energy they're going for, especially with the statues of Miklos Horthy. But like Horthy also kind of transitioned, like he didn't like suddenly go away when you got like fascist Axis Hungary.
Yeah.
He was like there for a good part of it.
Did he like actively collaborate with the Nazis?
He did at the beginning, yeah.
Okay, I was about to say, like, I know I know who this person is. Wait.
He's got a lot of medals. I mean, that's kind of cool.
I mean, yeah. No, that's not. Wait.
I got this one for kicking a Roma child.
This one for drowning a Jew.
I mean, it's, but I mean that works because it's like they can say like, oh, but this is kind of like a national hero, you know. You have that stuff happening in Ukraine, you have it in Poland, but still like saying like, oh, but he wasn't a Nazi, just kind of, you know, he did like some nice stuff for.
What is it like? All like the former Yugoslav countries do the same thing where they're like, yo, fuck Tito, but there's this Nazi dude who you all really like for our own individual country, or in the case of Bosnia, there's like one jihadi who's really fucking cool.
There's this one MMA fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it goes that far that Viktor Orban even said and like called him like an extraordinary statesman, politician, and shit like that. I mean,
speaking of like rewriting the past. Okay, actually, two things I want to say before I like, yeah. So the thing about their like anti-communism revisionism is I also like that the 1956 revolution isn't good enough for them. Like, they've taken down statues of like Imre Nagy. I'm probably pronouncing that name wrong, but he was like the leader of the 1956 revolution, and that's like, I feel like in a lot of like Western interpretations of like Cold War history, that's the part where that revolution was still communist is like ignored. And they just kind of focus on like, oh, they were anti-Soviet, therefore they were anti-communist, and therefore they're cool. But like Orban, like Hungary, like Orban's Hungary is like, no, this isn't good enough. Put up another statue of Horthy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like he's not like a strong enough figure, you know, that people can, and it's still like during the Soviet Union, it's still not something like, it's still not the dreamland you can refer to, the utopia you can long for, like it's not strong enough to write a whole fucking like national narrative that people can.
It doesn't exist in my book.
Yeah.
Hungary. Hungary's not a real.
The big book of Hungary, where it's like it runs up from the year 800 to the year 1945. Then it's just a bunch of blank pages, and then the 1993 election.
Exactly.
The thing, like, I'm just wondering, like, at what point can you just like start putting up statues of yourself?
I think you're close.
That's definitely being A/B tested in like some sort of random Hungarian town. Like there's these two towns right beside each other. One has a statue of Orban, one doesn't. Let's see how they do. Cheese production was up in the Orban statue town. I guess everyone's getting an Orban statue. And then like, okay, the last little thing about rewriting history, and I feel like I read an article about this. I was kind of tired, but still. Honor Day.
Yeah.
February 11th, which is like this new holiday in Hungary that like is basically the who's who of European neo-Nazis who come along to march. So that's fun. I think it's like to celebrate. It's like the Nazis trying to defend Budapest from the Soviet forces. Is the like thing they're actually like commemorating?
Fuck off! No, they're not. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh god!
Yeah.
At least Latvia gets away with it by being like, "Oh no, they were the nationalists. They weren't the Nazis yet. Maybe they were. Who knows?" This is just like actually like, "Oh yeah, the Nazis were defending us."
I think they don't mention Day of Honor Day. They don't mention. I think in the government narrative of it, they don't mention the Nazis. They mention
the Hungarians,
Hungarians, yeah,
against
who are like
18
from the
Wehrmacht brigades.
Is it the like Iron Arrow Party or something like that?
Oh yeah. They were one of those like groups in the 40s where they were like also like too wackily extreme for the Nazis.
Yeah, so they're the ones who were defending the siege of Budapest, which is what the day apparently commemorates. So that's fun. So yeah, there's a little bit of the rewriting of history.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this definitely occurred. But I also think we should probably do an episode about Honor Day because the people who show up at that,
it's fun. It's like everyone who kind of like collaborated with the Nazis is kind of like, yeah. I mean, you see flags of people like with the regime de Vichy, you know,
right?
Flags and shit like that. So yeah, French Nazis. Yeah,
you have a whole party in France that's just like dedicated to that now with Front National, or whatever the fuck they're called now.
National Rally.
That's what they're called. Yeah. I forgot they changed.
I mean, they wear fucking uniforms on that day. They wear like Nazi
nerds.
Uniforms.
Fucking nerds. God. This is the thing. This is the thing too. Is that like just neo-Nazis of today are just so fucking boring. At least like with like
to cosplay.
Yeah. At least like in the shit with like. I mean. I think that it's a good sign to show that then like Orban really likes Bolsonaro because like Bolsonaro has like a lot of like fervor and flavor with his like fascism that a lot of European fascists like don't have, you know? But cosplaying as Nazis is so fucking drawn out and stupid. Like, come on.
But actually, like, okay, this whole like commemoration day started like it was. Here's the name again. It was like. It was organized by István Györkös. He was the founder of a far-right paramilitary movement, Hungarian National Front.
Ooh. And
they were like hanging out with Russian neo-Nazi groups, training and shit like that, underground fighting and paramilitary moves.
This is the military wing of Jobbik, right?
Yeah, I think
this
so.
Is the one that
the Hungarian National Front.
This is the one that then what's his name? Former White House fella, also proud Hungarian.
Oh fuck, yeah.
Sebastian Gorka would always wear their logo on
That's
interviews
disgusting.
and stuff like that. And Sebastian Gorka actually was a part of their party, if I'm not mistaken.
Seriously?
I think he was part of
the fucking hell.
Oof.
That's why he wasn't allowed to have White House clearance because he's technically a member of a European party.
He's a Nazi.
No, not just that. He was
also because he's a member.
He was actively a member of a European political party. I think that was one of the main reasons why he wasn't allowed to get a whatever it is, the White House like the clearance to work in the White House. So he was just like an on-site like what's it called? Like advisor to Trump, but he wasn't allowed to actually be in the White House.
Oh my god!
Well, anyway, the leader Györkös, he was like sentenced to life in prison because he killed a police officer.
Conflicting.
I just want to add that Hungary is like kind of a hot spot because it has this image of like, I don't know, kind of like Poland, but you know, the guys the right like are they somehow seem to be pulling it off, or like they have more control. It is kind of a hotspot for this alt-right, this international alt-right. You guys heard of that Arctos Publishing?
Yes.
They're based in Budapest. With this,
I sent that Arctos company once to Nick, and he just broke his brain on it.
so the Swedish
Remember Evil Verso,
who
Nick?
runs it lives in Budapest, and there's a few others. Some guy who used to be a leader in the British National Party, and a lot of these people have ties to Jobbik. Like Jobbik will like invite them to I don't know, do something. They hang out
Parties.
Nazi, bring your kid to work day, but your kid also can be a Nazi. Dress your kid up like your favorite SS officer.
Yeah.
What I think is maybe most embarrassing, or the most sad part of the international alt-right movement, are all of the like PUA men's rights guys who moved to Budapest. Matt Forney, who wrote that book about like getting laid in the Philippines, like as a backpacker. If you don't know who he is right now, please look him up. Look up his photo. No further comments.
What's his name?
Matt Forney.
Matt Horny.
He lives in Budapest. Here's a little quote from him. This is from his blog.
Wait, this weird. Wait, no, that's the guy.
Quote, imagine there's no leftists. It's easy if you try. No protests in the streets. And in front of us, only cute white girls. That world exists, and it's called Hungary.
Oh my god, that's disgusting. And I was looking at his face while you said that.
Also just not true. Like, what is...
Also...
like...
I also like the idea of him like to help people with like to cope with isolation and lockdown and the pandemic. He just like sings it in a video on Twitter with all his celebrity friends.
He and all the other alt-right people who live in Budapest. It's like SNL. Like they all work together and live together, but they're separated by...
Confessions of an Online Hustler?
Yeah, Yulia, it's dangerous to go down that internet.
Oh my god!
It's not worth it, Yulia.
But like just the fact that there's no protests in the streets of
Philippines?
Budapest, like that's one thing that's about Hungary. Like there are huge. I mean, like to the slave law, for example, there are huge waves of protests.
Yeah,
like, it is kind of constructing in real time this like alt-right vision of a country. Like, yeah, they have quote unquote the like levers of power that they think they need, or their allies, or whatever they might want to call it, and they kind of have to tell themselves like, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what I've always dreamed of.
There's no way this guy fucks.
There's another American in
oh my
in
god,
Budapest.
that's disgusting.
He's a far right YouTuber named Ramsey Paul.
I know.
He tweeted, "Budapest is like Paris of the 1920s. #Hungary."
Well, they have to do this because like the guys they want are in charge, and if it's not perfect, everything we've been like fighting or like agitating for is a lie, and they have to like square that circle. Like as they like try to parse like the 4 words you need to order a coffee in Hungarian, and like accidentally call the bartender a horse. It's like it's deeply upsetting. But you mentioned something very good there, Rob.
I just want to add one more thing before we switch.
Yeah.
Is that the British National Party guy, just to keep weaving in this religion theme, his name's Nick Griffin, and he says he's not affiliated with the alt-right community in Budapest, but he is deeply involved with a radical Christian organization called the Knights Templar International.
Oh, sick.
Which has offices in the UK and Hungary. His Twitter profile lists Budapest as one of his locations. The Knights Templar were invited to inspect the Hungarian border in 2015 by Jobbik party member and mayor of Asat, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce anything, Asattalom, Laszlo Toroskai. So you have a lot. If you want to like incorporate Christianity into your like new fascism, you have a lot of options in Hungary.
Yeah, that's true.
Except Pentecostal.
So I found out that our boy Matt Forney also used to be a regular writer on Return of Kings, and and his latest articles, as in the things that he wrote years ago, the divorces of a fat dad aged 41 1/4 is a poignant look at modern marriage. I don't know what that means. Something about then Lauren Southern and Martin Zena being deported from the UK, which is awesome. But Star Wars: The Last Jedi is the worst movie of the decade.
Oh my god! Wow.
Important journalism.
Mr. Orban, sir, I need you to ban all screenings of Star Wars: The Last Jedi in Hungary. Thank you.
Yeah, three depressing realities about living in Eastern Europe. The downsides of living abroad. Yeah, I love how you can just be a complete nincompoop on the right, and just if you say bad words enough times, like, you get an audience. Oh god, this guy
Mr. Orban,
is such
sir,
a fat
I know you...
fucking pig.
The Matt Forney guy goes to Viktor Orban like it's the first scene of The Godfather, that he believes in Hungary, and then he's asking him like, Orban, I need you. The girls in video games, their boobs are too small. The feminists are getting rid of the boobs. I need you, just in the Hungarian versions of the game, to make them bigger, please. I believe in Hungary.
It's like the German-only versions of World War II games where they take out the swastika.
The Hungarian version just makes everyone like really hot.
But they have to be white, of course.
Of course, yes. Oh, but yeah, Rob, you did mention one thing that kind of leads us to modern day, neatly wraps up our timeline here, which is the slave law.
Something it has in common with the rest of Europe. You know, Austria getting in on that. See, they're not so different.
Yeah, no. Why don't they hang out anymore? I don't understand.
Damn.
But yeah, so like we had the 2018 election where the rise of Jobbik is kind of dealt with very quickly. We return with another supermajority of
using
Fidesz.
that classic tactic of just becoming really racist again.
Yeah.
Charge up a racism spirit bomb.
Yeah. Get rid of Jobbik. Become Jobbik.
Suck up Jobbik like the Kirby.
Spit him out.
It's the Cell Saga. It's the Cell Saga from Dragon Ball Z. Viktor Orban just ate Jobbik and now has Jobbik's powers.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we have they spent like after this 2018 election, they run a campaign more on like immigration and foreign meddling as like the big like we'll defend you from these things. And then they spend like 65 million euro to move the parliament to Buda Castle. So it's more like the Horthy
the
period.
Patrick Star, the Patrick Star fucking tactic.
And and also like the one big thing they did after the 2018 election, bar what we talked about earlier, is introduce the slave law, which resulted in huge protests. But then like nothing happened. The slave law is still in effect. They've like increased the number of hours of overtime that the company can ask you to do. You don't get any compensation. Like there's not 1.5 times compensation or whatever. They can take up to 3 years. Your employer can take up 3 years to pay you for your wages. Fucking hell.
Yeah, especially like increasing it from like 250 to 400 hours. What the fuck? And also like 3 years.
I can't even imagine 400 hours.
How many weeks is that? Like,
don't ask me to do that right on the spot. It's a lot. 10 weeks.
I mean, if you work 40 hours a week.
Oh yeah, there you go. So 10 weeks of work. But Jesus fucking Christ. And now we have 2019 in March. I just wanted to say this one because it's kind of important, but like just to kind of paint the picture of like how Orban's right wing is not really that detached from the rest of Europe's right wing, which is 2019 in a conference in Budapest, alongside Nicolas Sarkozy. The Nicholas Black People Smell Funny Sarkozy. He did a speech about how basically the Great Replacement is happening. So that's good.
I'll give you an example of how Hungary isn't that different from the rest of Europe. They're members of fucking EPP. Like I know it's bullshit, and it's all just this whatever. Like they're all just like pretending. It's something I didn't understand until Kieran's like, no, Don't worry. They just do this. That's all fronting. But like, you can accept that. But the fucking Politico Brussels dweebs, they're the ones who care so much about this, like, whatever, the EU politics and the coalitions and whatever. And then they're the ones trying to make Hungary out to be this, dangerous, like, threat to liberal democracies as some foreign object. They're in the fucking mainstream group in the EU.
Yeah.
How do they square that circle? You can't hold both things to be true. You can't hold this, like, Hungary to be this dangerous... completely foreign element to your precious liberal democracy, and just assume like, but they're just an EPP. They work together. That's just what they do.
Yeah, well, that's the thing of like when we were talking about Poland, and we found that article of like, actually, you guys are crazy. Poland's perfectly fine, and it's that exact same like mentality comes from like Hungarian conservatives are just like, don't fucking tell us what to do. We're a sovereign country, this and that and that. We vote our own way. You don't understand because you don't have the history of Hungary, aka you aren't a completely made up country like we are. And that's like kind of the last point that I obviously wanted to like get to in this topic is that then like every political scientist right now who is arguably garbage uses this rhetoric that like Hungary is like some like extraordinary specimen of democracy. Like, how did they get here? And this and that and that. But and like these will be like the same people then who will be like, oh golly gee, I don't understand the United States either. How could this reality star who's racist become president of the United States? I need to fucking look at the data.
You don't understand.
No, exactly.
Obviously,
yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like it's that exact same stupidity that then was like going around in like that post 2016 election, like just like. Every political science being dumbfounded of the country that they're actually supposed to be researching and being like, how did this happen? And with Hungary, it's like all the signs that like since the end of the Soviet Union and just like, well, racism and being reactionary is legal now. So let's double down on that as much as we can. It's just kind of this like really like logical point of that, like, well, of course, like liberal democracy will end up being this hyper racist, hyper reactionary, hyper liberal, like economically liberal, like with the slave law, quote unquote, of the economy. Line go up is the most important thing for Hungarian GDP. It does not fucking matter how or whose toes get stepped on. And
line go up. We lied about unemployment.
Yeah, exactly. And it really is just so baffling to me how then like political scientists will like look at you just straight in the eye and be like, yep, Hungary is detached from liberal democracy. It's like, no, it kind of sounds like the end point for a lot of like what these parties want to do, and Hungary is definitely the example that they want to be like, especially like in the American right, as like Rob was.
They
saying.
Started as a centrist party.
Exactly. But
oh dear,
maybe Yulia could chime in on that.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Yulia?
Yeah, I thought we wanted to talk about some of the policies, but maybe I don't know.
Oh yeah, go for it. What do you got?
Like, since we're already talking about that and like the slave laws, how they call it, what they call it, and as Nick said, kind of like being openly fascist or racist. So this is actually the like public work program. So since you only can get like unemployment money for 3 months in Hungary, they introduced this like the public work program that they called National Work Plan, very much inspired by the totalitarian regime of the 1930s in Hungary.
Wonder who was controlling that.
That had the same fucking name. It was very anti-Semitic. So the idea behind this is, it's basically that you have to accept any employment opportunity. It doesn't matter what level of skill you have. So we have that similar with like Job Center here. But it also has this weird public work program. That means you have to, if there's no employment opportunity, you have to work for the government. You have to do like public work. You have to work like in a public sphere, which is really weird. It's like okay, we can take you like to do something for us, for the government, or for the municipality or something. And there's a lot of like loopholes because especially the local governments can't provide a lot of they can't provide a lot of jobs, in this like 30 days attendance program. So a lot of the time they use this as a loophole to, especially racist mayors use this to exclude Roma from the program.
Right.
So you have to do the 30 days program to work for like a public institution. If not, you can't get on the social welfare program. So you there are cases that a lot of the times like Roma women were excluded from it for wearing traditional costumes or something like like any kind of reason, or in regions where, or in villages where Jobbik is in power, so the right-wing party, they don't even distribute the information about public work programs to the Roma families. So,
Yep.
That's
saving yourself a lot of work, I guess.
Yeah. So this is like one policy example. You also have this fun family policies that are obviously favoring the traditional family. You have it in the constitution that the family shall be based on the marriage of a man and a woman.
Yep.
Immediately excluding any like any kind of like that is not in a traditional concept
nothing same sex,
marriage.
nothing. Yeah.
And you have a lot of like tax breaks for, can you call that tax breaks?
Yeah.
The tax benefits for rich Hungarian families, because if you expand the income of better off families, this and in the like Orban mindset or like whatever, like his party's mindset, will lead to more fertility among better off families.
Nice.
Because
more money makes me horny.
Exactly. If you get even richer, of course you want to have more kids. That always happens. That always works out.
Yeah.
Look at all the billionaire families with like 10 kids.
Look at all those rich countries like Germany, Japan, and their birth rates.
The German birth rate is 10 kids per family.
And of course you have like stuff like this, like that you can't have what's it called? Gender.
Yeah, gender reassignment.
Surgeries and stuff like that. So everything. This is like something that they are on the front line with. Off. That's the word. Off is like it's so obvious. It's like the textbook. It's all right. No, whatever you call it, not all right, but like the new right 101. What they are doing in their policies, like seeing gender and LGBT stuff as being the enemy of the nation,
This made-up place called Hungary.
It's so obvious. It's just so obvious, and I'm like, this is like interesting. What Rob brought up is like, okay, it's so obvious, but nobody's doing anything.
Yeah,
we're still like a lovely part of the EU. Here's our money. Put your billboards against abortion up, please.
No, the European Union slapped them on the hand for that. They didn't do anything else, but they said, "Hey, why are you doing that?"
Yeah.
And then that was the extent of it. And Hungary was like, to preserve the white race, that's why. And they're all like, oh, okay.
And they're like, oh, yeah, I get that.
The EU sent them a gif of Amy Poehler making an angry face from Parks and Recreations. So that's that'll do it. But sure showed them.
Yeah. And then Hungary sent a gif that then they got banned on Twitter for in Germany. By the way, have you ever gotten like very weird random fact or whatever? Have you ever gone and looked at old Ben Shapiro tweets and just seen how many of them are banned in Germany?
Oh, interesting.
Really weird.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them are.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what did I want to say? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Fuck. Forgot. No, but yeah, it's just another thing. They actually like banned every kind of gender studies in Hungary.
What if I want to study dudes?
Yeah.
Just dudes having fun, just doing guy shit. Is that
that
illegal?
before or after
Completely.
the whole university, what is it called, Central European University?
The Central European
that closed
University, which is exactly Storage Foundation University.
Oh, that especially, like, just the the international Jew fucking conspiracy that then is at the heart of like Soros of Orban's whole thing about Soros is that like it's obviously a front of let's just pick on this one really famous Jewish guy, but they do not hide the anti-Semitism there.
No.
I know, like it's so much. As I said, it's like he fucking like gets his ideas from the internet or something. Like, seriously, it's like, oh, this sounds interesting.
Orban
in my next speech. In the EU.
Orban is like, I don't know. Back in like the early 2000s, Orban is like the one friend for all of Hungary who like discovered E-bombs world before anyone else and doesn't share it with his friends and just like re-says the jokes to them, and everyone's like, "Oh man, you're so funny. Where do you get this stuff?" I was like, it's off the top of my dome, guys."
Well, all of his other friends are fucking like, they're just rewatching the End is the World clip over and over and over again. I think that was actually on E-Bombs World. Actually, fuck, never mind.
Yeah, no, he basically said the entire speech at the End of the World thing to all of Hungary, and they're like, "Damn, dude, that's so great. Let me vote for you."
Yeah.
I have like one kind of like paragraph that I would like to read that I found that I think summarizes everything quite well. We can end on that, maybe.
Yeah, I have one speech I want to give. This is not normal. We have to defend Europe from this approaching danger of. I mean, but seriously, like if you want to look at the future, like I do think it's a very innovative form of fascism, right? Like there's big protests in the streets. And then you just kind of let that peter out. You don't need to crack so many skulls. Just keep posting those right-wing memes. Pass laws that are like, you gotta start your hustle. If you don't come out of this with a new skill, then you're whatever. And like then the system just keeps going. Like it's definitely a postmodern version of authoritarianism that's brewing.
Yeah.
Pepes are still cool.
It's very innovative. They weren't lying.
It very much like falls in line with like what we as sociologists would like consider the new right, like also with this like seeking for like an international alliance with other right-wing governments, having like a little chat in the friends group.
I bet they do have a chat. I think Orban and Bolsonaro are probably the most. Like they know the hot memes, like Kieran was saying, and they send them to the group chat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, they've paid for the Something Awful forums membership, so they see all the good tweets. Yeah,
I on one last note before Kieran reads this thing, I always just wonder at what point then is a party then classified within this group of the like as we want to call it like the DM neo-Nazi groups or whatever. Like Orban's very obvious, but like Fidesz started as like a relatively run-of-the-mill post-Soviet or post Warsaw Pact conservative party. Same thing with PIS, but then like what. I don't know. I'm always kind of like confused of when if we look at then like for example like Nia Demokratia did a similar tactic that then Fidesz is doing with the be more racist to combat the Nazis, and you'll like take in their votes. But yet whenever we talk about that party, it's never in the sense of like that they're also part of this, even though I would personally put them in that same group. So it's I don't know, like it's just like a weird like kind of.
Yeah.
Who is and who gets the rose for being a neo-Nazi party and who doesn't?
Well, I would say maybe Julia can clarify, but I would say that Fidesz lines up much more with Nea Demokratia, and Jobbik is the like
No,
neo-Nazi
Jobbik
group.
and what's it called? And Golden Dawn had like relations with one another, but it's just that whenever we talk about the Fidesz now, they're on the same level as if you would talk about a Golden Dawn or Jobbik. But they politically really aren't. They are more in common with with Nea Demokratia. They use similar tactics and whatnot.
I thought like that is the one. Yeah, I mean, what I was talking about before is like, as I said, very like they are very selective about like what they are doing, what they are using, what kind of. But of course, this ideology behind that, this narrative, is what sells it to the people.
Yeah.
So you can have like tax breaks only for rich Hungarian families, and the not so well off Hungarian families still think you're a cool dude because you have like a something to identify with, like a nation, something beautiful. So like something to convince you, to conquer you in that sense, kind of. So that's what as long as you still play not by the rules or break them from time to time, cheat from time to time, and you still like kind of play by the rules. You still have elections, stuff like that. The EU will say like, oh yeah, that wasn't cool what you were doing, but I guess you're still a democracy, I mean, they did that with the changes of the constitution, and that is why they did it through amendments a lot, because you still have all the like rights that the EU wants you to have in your constitution. You still have that in the constitution. Or like they call it basic law or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow, Rosa, shut up. Sorry. But you have all these amendments.
Rosa's very upset
like,
with you talking bad about Viktor Orban.
I know, she's a great Orban fan. This cat. She ran from very far left to very far right. No, she started as a liberal, like, Democrat.
Mr. Orban, sir, I none of your tax breaks affect me, but I loved your new Kuiper Museum you built in Budapest. I go there every weekend. Thank you, sir. I loved how conservatism is the new punk rock was engraved in gold on the stairs when you walk in.
I love how the guide has the voice of Paul Joseph Watson on the headset when you go around. It's pretty sick.
Mr. Orban, please look into what's going on in Malmo.
I personally am pissed off that Orban has said nothing about what's going on in South Africa, but that's just me.
The white South African far right.
But yeah, as I said, like you can weaken important like concepts of democracy, like checks and balances, or take away your rights of the justitia judiciary.
Judiciary.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. That is what I wanted to say. But as long as you still have like all these cute like things that the EU is based on, or you still have it on paper, and you still don't go the full way to fascism or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're very smart in using, EU money and the instruments and your constitution. Using like it's kind of like a play with the constitution, like writing all these amendments, or like it's like this peacock dance, what Kieran told us about.
Yeah, the peacock dance.
It's actually that's what he does with like democracy and not going full fash. So like kind of like I don't know.
So I just want to close out this one a little bit, which I think does a nice job of summarizing pretty much everything we've said, and it's from an article by Imre Ziyato. Mispronounced that, but still, it's a Hungarian name. It's called Viktor Orban is using the coronavirus emergency to crush minorities.
Okay. That's long.
Yeah.
You normally have to unlock that power when you're at level 65, but Viktor Orban, he has
a starting bonus.
He has the Game Shark that he's using, so he's fuck him.
But this is a paragraph I found from this article that did a good job of like summarizing and basically agrees with everything we've said in this podcast, so that's nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So here it goes. Fidesz runs with a strategy referred to as Velvet Fist, a strategy based on media manipulation, the bending of institutional rules, corruption, gerrymandering, and skillful art of crafting laws that are designed to destroy perceived opponents such as universities and NGOs. While there is self-censorship in the media, which will likely worsen as a result of the emergency bill, Putin-esque tactics of such as locking up or otherwise physically threatening journalists have thus far been absent from Fidesz's playbook. But these critiques by those allowed to critique, including external critics within the EU, are all toothless. As Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó, a member of Fidesz, put it, the dogs bark, but the caravan carries on. And I think that summarizes how they just keep going and do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fits. Okay.
Oh. So with that's been another episode of Previously in Europe. Fuck! Oh, I'm so tired. Okay, hang on. I'm hitting the mic.
Was that intentional, or did you actually fuck up?
No, I actually fucked up because.
Oh my god! Keep that in.
I'm so tired, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, so with that, this is a bit of another episode of Corner Späti. God damn it.
Right podcast. Thank you.
Yeah. Join us next week when we talk about some other lovely things that make everyone happy to hear.
Will we though?
Like
Oh wait, before we go, I believe Yulia wanted to correct the record about something that happened last week.
Very, very briefly, Rob was reading a quote from an Austrian businessman, and he, in his native German, Austrian German, he said a slur, and we didn't realize it was a slur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people are not aware of that and still use it because it's so like.
I can barely say the German word for table. I'm definitely not going to know the slurs.
It's so embedded in like German languages and other languages, but especially in German. I think Dutch say it as well, but I'm not sure. So it is this word. I mean, I'm not repeating it because I'm not going to reproduce it. It's like it has its like roots in the colonial times, and especially the German colonial times in Southwest Africa.
Oh, goody!
The colonies, yeah. And it was like a term that was, I think it was actually made. It comes from like the Dutch, I think. I'm not sure, but it is a word to describe, like people living in this area, and using it in the context, you always use it in a like bad context, like it is dirty, as if we were
right
there among these people.
Okay.
Or something like that. So it was always, or like, it's always like, oh, hier sieht's ja aus wie bei. So it's always used in like a bad connotation, kind of like saying that people that come from Southwest Africa are not living like people, or not civilized, and not,
Yeah.
So that's
in general,
I didn't know that.
In general, well, obviously we didn't know that. This is what happens when Yulia's not on the podcast.
I can act like every like dad online who's like, I was just quoting a rap song. I can be like, I was just quoting the UVP politician's text. I didn't know.
I mean, you're not the only one knowing that, because like there Marius Müller-Westerhagen, who is like a German rock musician, called his fucking live album from 2011 music. It's like, what the fuck, it's 2011.
Right, so we're all very sorry. We're all very sorry. Auf Deutsch, es tut mir leid. So this is what happens when Yulia's not on the podcast. We just say German slurs without knowing what they are. We just think they're like place names or something. I don't know. Also, in a lighter note to end on, we're going to do regular Twitch streams until this like coronavirus lockdown is kind of done. Every second Saturday. We did one on the 11th, which was this Saturday just gone, and there'll be another one on the 25th. We're going to do all sorts of weird things. We'll play video games, and we'll draw. We'll talk about hot anime boys, the usual stuff.
Nice.
So twitch.tv/corner Späti. Späti spelled the way you have to spell things when you don't have an umlaut. Yeah, so that's it for us. Bye, guy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.